Good evening, everyone. Oh, I forgot to turn my fan down again. It's gonna blow my papers everywhere. All right, there we go. I'm gonna turn it down and move it closer. How about that? Because the last couple of videos, I was really a dripping sweat before it was all over with, right? It's harder in the prayer room than it is in my room. Just the air flows differently through the windows. Hi, Tanya. So when I'm in the prayer room, yeah, it's a different kind of hot. That's okay. We are here. Third day on time. I'm on a roll. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to act. This is great. I got to keep this up. This is beautiful. I have a busy weekend coming up, so I'm really going to make sure to try and finish Thursday and Friday because I am on such a good roll. Because the likelihood that I will have time to do it on Saturday and Sunday is highly unlikely. So I need to actually take a break and not feel guilty about it. Like, be off on Saturday and Sunday and not say, man, I really should have caught up on some videos. Like, be off and just be off. That would be wonderful. That would just be great, right? We'll see how it goes. Speak it into existence, right? All right, let's do this. Tanya, I hope you are doing great and had a wonderful day. I am going to get started in about 30 seconds or so. Yeah, I should have thought about moving the fan closer a long time ago. I think that's going to help me not be so hot, although I'm probably still going to sweat, but perhaps I won't be so hot. Today, we are going to do Psalm 60, 61, and 62. We're heading toward the halfway mark. Let's see, what day will we hit the halfway mark? By a week from today, we will hit the halfway mark, guys. A week from today, we will hit the halfway mark and be halfway through Psalms and on our way to Proverbs. It's going to be a while before we get back to like stories. Let's see, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. Hi, Diane. Not until we really get to Isaiah are we really going to get to any more story-like scriptures. Not until we get to the prophets. So from Isaiah to Malachi, there'll be some stories we can read about. But until then, we're more in the poetry scene. So we're going to learn quite a bit of songs and poetry and things like that. Let's go ahead and get started. Yay. Okay, so Psalm 60 is where we're starting. Psalm 60. And Psalm 60 is written by David. And actually, Psalm 60, 61, and 62 are written by David. And we talk about this, or at least I tried to bring this up at least in the beginning of every video if possible, to remind you that you are reading song lyrics. You are reading song lyrics. And so the person who wrote the lyrics to the 3 songs that we are about to read happens to be David, but this is a book of Psalms. And so there are a different number of Psalms in here, and we are in the second division of the book. So Psalms 42 through 72 are the second division of the book. And the first division, Psalms 1 through 41, were all written by David. The second division, Psalms 42 through 72, are not all David. We've already read Psalms from the sons of Korah and from Asaph, but here lately, the Psalms we have been reading are from David. And so David wrote the 60th Psalm, and there's a beginning part of this, a little description in the beginning, and it says, "For the director of music, to the tune of the Lily of the Covenant, a Michtam of David, for teaching, when he fought Aram Naharaim and Aram Zobah, And when Joab returned and struck down 12,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. And I thought this was good, right? Because it says it's a psalm that was written for teaching, which tells us that David actually sang songs so that people could learn from the song that they sang over and over again, a teaching from it, which we sort of, when we think about that, we think about kids, right? We think about like how they sing their ABCs or how they learn. A lot of us remember Channel 7 when we were little, right? Schoolhouse Rock, right? And how we learned a whole bunch of things through songs, through Schoolhouse Rock, right? Like, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. You remember that one? Or, don't drown your food in ketchup or mayo or goo, right? Or there was another one, it just slipped my mind, but it was about brushing teeth, but I can't remember how that one goes. But yeah, so when we think about learning or teaching through songs, we think about kids, right? But here we have David teaching pretty much his military team how they need to rely on God through this song. And so this song is about relying on God. It's about how they need to depend on him and not man for their victories. And this is stated in the title that it is a teaching song, and that was interesting to me. Let's read it because it's not that long, so we'll go ahead and read it. It says, you have rejected us, God, and burst upon us. You have been angry. Now restore us. You have shaken the land and torn it open. Mend its fractures, for it is quaking. You have shown your people desperate times. You have given us wine that makes us stagger. But for those who fear you, you have raised a banner to be unfurled against the bow. Save us and help us with your right hand, that those you love may be delivered. God has spoken from his sanctuary. In triumph, I will parcel out Shechem and measure off the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim is my helmet. Judah is my scepter. Moab is my wash basin. On Edom I toss my sandal. Over Philistia I shout in triumph. Who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? Is it not you, God? You who have now rejected us and no longer go out with our armies? Give us aid against the enemy, for human help is worthless. With God, we will gain the victory, and he will trample down our enemies. And so you may have been confused, right? Like a teaching song. The whole beginning of that sounds like horrendous. I mean, David is like, you rejected us. You have shaken the land. You've torn it apart. It's fractures laying everywhere, right? But basically, David is trying to teach his armies what happens when they don't depend on God, right? And so he's definitely telling them this is why we need to depend on God, because when God is not with us, this is what happens, right? And then he specifically tells them when God rejects them, right, and his armies don't go out, when he doesn't go out with the armies, that the armies can't win. And that's why verse 11 is so important. He says, give us aid against the enemy, for human help is worthless. And so David is saying, look, it don't matter who we go get. We can go get army upon army upon army and say, come help us. But if God is not with us, then all of that is going to fall to the wayside. It's not going to mean anything. Excuse me, guys. And so David is trying to teach the armies to depend on God. And, you know, in our own lives, we can take that and apply it to ourselves, right? We need to teach our hearts to depend on God for everything. And I know I'm not the only one who has a tendency to depend on herself, right? to be quite independent, and sometimes have to step yourself back and say, you know what, did I even consult? Did I even talk to God? Did I just move, right? It's important for us to realize also that we're not so independent minded that we're moving before God, right? Sometimes I've gone all the way out there and then looked back like, ooh, God, you turned left. I wasn't supposed to be leading. You were supposed to be leading. Somewhere I went from following to leading. Only God don't follow you, right? God continues to go where he was trying to lead you. So eventually you turn around and say, whoa, God went that way, but I'm still going this way. That's when you got to make a choice, right? Am I going to swallow my pride, admit I was wrong, acknowledge my sin, humble myself, and say, wait, Lord, wait, right? Or am I just going to keep going my own stubborn way, only to go into destruction, right? So that's how it is. David is saying we've got to learn how to follow God in every situation, because trying to get help from man is not going to give us what we need. And that is Psalm 60. Diane said, yep, you mess up every time. Talking about when you try to do it yourself. When you become the leader, you mess up every time, right? Hey, Kiki. So it is important for us to make sure that we understand that human help is worthless. Now, that doesn't mean, don't take it, so literal that you become that super private person. Human help is worthless. So I don't need nothing from you, right? No. That's not what it's saying, right? We have to make sure that we don't rely on human help, that we understand that if humans help us, it is because God moved upon their hearts to help, right? And so we rely on God, even though the help may come through humans. Now, I don't want you to get so super sanctimonious that now you can't take nothing from nobody. I'm going to wait on God, right? It's like that story of the man that was caught in the storm. Most of you have heard this story before. He was caught in a storm on a boat in the middle of the ocean, right? And he's crying out to God, God help me, God help me, right? And then, a ship passes by and said, man, come on, get in the ship. And he said, no, I'm waiting on God, right? So ship passes on by, and then he's still screaming out, God help me, God help me. And, a man in a boat comes by and said, man, you want to get in the boat? And said, no, I'm waiting on God. And then, a little dinghy comes by with a person who's also trying to get out the storm. Like, come on, get in, man. We can do this together. You're like, no. I'm waiting on God. And eventually the man drowns to death, right? He lifts up his eyes in heaven, looks at God and say, God, why didn't you help me? I asked you to help me. And God's like, I sent you 3 ways out, right? I did help. I sent you 3 ways out and you didn't take none of them, right? That's how some of us are, right? We cry out, God help us, God help us. But when God sends the help, because it doesn't come the way we think it should look, because it doesn't come the way we think it should look, because it doesn't come the way we think it should look, we let the help pass on by, right? So be careful that you don't overread into with your own emotion this scripture that says human help is worthless, and think that you don't need no human help, because that's not what it's saying. It's saying you don't rely on human help, right? Rely on God, who will use humans sometimes to help you. I hope you got that. Let's move on to Psalm 61. Psalm 61, also written by David. And in Psalm 61, the little title of it says, for the director of music with stringed instruments of David. And we've seen this string instrument before. And David is known for playing a harp. Remember when he used to play the saw, and every time he played the saw, Saul's evil spirit would calm, right? With David serenading him. So we know that David played the harp. So most theologians believe when it says string instruments that David was playing a harp to whatever this song tune was, that David was playing a harp to this tune. And we don't know what David was specifically writing about in Psalm 61. Again, I told you we're reading song lyrics, so sorry guys. So not all the time when you read song lyrics or when you hear songs on the radio, you don't know what that artist is writing about. You don't know what motivated their heart. You may not know the specific situation that caused them to write that song, but you can yet and still feel that song and feel what it's about. So that's Psalm 61. We don't know. Hey, Toya, we don't know exactly what it's about, but David was praying. So it's a song of prayer, right? David was praying to God, crying out to God. And this is how it goes. I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer." King James says, "Attend to my prayer." In other words, don't just hear it, God, but do something about what you hear, right? So, hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And that is our memory verse. That is verse 2 of Psalm 61. I'll read it again to you. From the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And most people believe that is a messianic reference that talks about a future Christ, right? But in the text even, David is saying, I know that there's something bigger than me. God, when I start getting faint-hearted, when I stop responding in faith, when I start thinking evil thoughts or getting depressed or getting despondent, Lord, lead me to the rock that's higher than I. Lord, take me to the place, take me to what I need to see, take me to what I need to experience, take me to what I need to hear, take me to what I need, right? That rock that is higher than me so that I can get myself together, right? So David is crying out. And again, I love David because of his honest prayers. And David is saying, look, it's going to be a time where my heart faints, right? I think a lot of us as saints get in trouble because we don't expect that there will be a time where our heart faints. We think that every day should be, howdy and never goodbye, right? We think that every day should be beautiful, wonderful, glorious, right? And so when we have a bad day or when we have days that aren't howdy and never goodbye, right? Then we're thrown by it because we weren't expecting it in the first place. But David says, look, I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. What we need to do is instead expect that sometimes our heart will grow faint, but we need to know what to do when our heart grows faint. When we feel ourselves slipping, when we feel ourselves saying, you know what, I don't even know no more, right? That's when we need to cry out to God, Lord, lead me to the rock that's higher than I, to the rock that's higher than my thinking, to the rock that's higher than my feelings, to the rock that's higher than my logic, to the rock that's higher than me, God. There is a rock that's higher than me. Lead me there, Lord God, so that my faint heart can be strengthened again. He goes on to say in verse 3, for you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. For you, God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Increase the days of the king's life, his years for many generations. May he be enthroned in God's presence forever. Appoint your love and faithfulness to protect him. Then I will ever sing in praise of your name and fulfill my vows day after day. And just in verse 7, in the middle of that verse, it says, appoint your love and faithfulness to protect him. I love that sentence. Appoint. In other words, Lord, give an appointment, right, to love and faithfulness and say, you know what, at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, I'm going to need you to go and strengthen Watrice, because she gonna be down and she gonna be looking for some love and faithfulness. I'm gonna need you to be there. Appoint your love and faithfulness to protect us, right? That is beautiful. All right, last but not least, Psalm 62. Psalm 62. The title for Psalm 62 is for the director of music, for Jeduthun. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, guys. Please forgive me. Jeduthun, a psalm of David. And Jeduthun is a person. So this is basically saying this song was composed for this person. And Jeduthun was actually someone that David had appointed to lead public worship. And so Jeduthun was like a praise and worship leader, right? He was appointed by David to lead praise and worship. And so this is David writing a song especially for him, right? Especially for him. And it's also known, if you read the Old Testament, it's also known in Chronicles, it says that Jeduthun and his people were doorkeepers, right? So it's like he served dual purpose. You had a doorkeeper that could also lead worship. Uh-oh. Did y'all hear that? You had a doorkeeper that could also lead worship, right? And in the commentary that I was studying from, it was saying, listen, not only do you have to be a person who can be as humble as a doorkeeper, but be prepared to be lifted high and lead others to worship, but you have to be a person who is a worshiper, who can be humble enough to go and keep the door. Did y'all get that? So you got to go in God's house. You got to be able to do whatever is called for you to do. And so you got to be, brave and courageous enough that the doorkeeper can rise up and lead worship if necessary. But you got to be humble enough so that the praise and worship leader can go keep the door if it's necessary. You get what I'm saying? You gotta be able to be brave and humble, courageous and humble at the same time. That's important in the house of God. And then Psalm 62, it starts off reading. Oh, one more fact about this that I found out when I was studying it. It talked about the Hebrew translation, and it talked about how we lose a lot in translation when we translate words in Hebrew to English words, right? We sometimes lose the context of the poetry, right? And so one of the greatest poetic things in this is that they use the word alone or only. I think it says, and I got it right here on my screen, I think it says alone or only was used in this psalm like 6 times in the first 8 verses. So in the first 8 verses, the words alone or lonely, not lonely, only, I'm sorry. The words alone or only appear 6 times between the first 9 verses, right? And the emphasis was on the fact that only God alone could do it. Only God can do. Only God alone can do it. But because we have translated into English, because a straight translation from Hebrew to English did not make as much sense, so they had to put it into the context of what it meant and not a literal translation, right? We lose some of that poetic value where you're just repeating the same word in a different tense over and over again, right? And I'm going to read this to you. Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from him. Truly he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Remember that? We had that in another psalm, right? How long will you assault me? Would all of you throw me down? This leaning wall, this tottering fence. In other words, I'm already on my way down, and you're gonna push me down even further, right? He calls himself a leaning wall and a tottering fence. Surely they intend to topple me from my lofty place. They take delight in lies. With their mouths they bless, but in their hearts they curse. Yes, my soul find rest in God. My hope comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. See how that was repeated, right? Trust in him. Oh, wait, I skipped. My salvation and my honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. And I love this one. Trust in him at all times. You people, pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. And so David here is saying, look, pour out your heart to him, right? He's like, listen, I pour out everything to God. I tell him everything. And he's admonishing the Israelites to do the same. Pour out your heart. Pour out your heart to God, because he's our refuge. He's our hiding place. You can feel secure in pouring out your heart to God. God is not like some of our friends who can't hold water. And if we pour out our hearts to them, they're going to pour out our hearts to everyone else, right? God is not like that. Pour your heart out to God, and God will keep the deepest of your secrets, right? And not only keep them, but will address each and every one of them so that you can actually feel the lightning of your heart. And that is a beautiful thing. Listen, he says one thing. Oh, wait, I skipped. Verse 9, surely the lowborn are but a breath, the highborn but a lie. So he's saying surely poor people are just a breath. They don't even last long, right? And high people that are born high, they're just a lie, right? If weighed on a balance, they are nothing. Together, they are only a breath. Do not trust in extortion or put vain hope in stolen goods. Though your riches increase, all those that are making an increase, right? Hey, Cliff, though your riches increase, do not set your heart on them. I'm going to say that again. So for all of those who like, you know what, I'm getting to a good place in God. I mean, I'm making more money now and things are looking up, right? This is good. This is good. Listen to what God says here. Though your riches increase, do not set your heart on them. I'm telling you, once your heart is set on money, the Bible tells us the love of money is the root of all evil. That's a huge statement. The love of money is the root of all evil. All evil can be traced back to somebody who loved money. All evil can be traced back to somebody that loved money, right? The love of money is the root of all evil. So therefore, though your riches increase, make sure you do not set your heart on them. One thing God has spoken, two things have I heard. Power belongs to you, God. Remember that song? We find all kind of songs in the Psalms. Now y'all know where they're getting all these songs, right? Power belongs to God. There is nothing too hard for God. Nothing too hard for God. Power belongs to God. Remember that now? Yes, all these songs, they have scriptural reference. And if you know your word, right, the song can make you even more happier, because now it's not just words that you think somebody made up, but these are direct scripture quotes, right? There is nothing to power belongs to God. I mean, this is deep, right? Power belongs to you, God. And with you, Lord, is unfailing love. And you reward everyone according to what they have done. Everybody's going to be rewarded according to what you have done. Now, whether your reward feels rewarding, I don't know. But everybody is going to be rewarded according to what you have done. I believe if we really had that in mind, there would be a lot of things that we just wouldn't do. Because this is not in any way going toward my reward. Maybe that should be something we say when we know we're being tempted to do something that's outside the realm and spectrum of God. Maybe we need to start saying that this is not in any way going toward my reward. People will be confused when you say it, right? But you'll know, right? God, I know that this is not in any way going toward my reward, right? I'm going to be rewarded for what I do in you. Only what you do for Christ will last. So look, we got to make sure that we keep this scripture in mind. Well, that is it. Sorry about that, God. I dropped you guys. Sorry about that. But we are done. We have completed Psalm 61, 60, 61, and 62. We will pick up hopefully tomorrow. We're on a roll. I got a feeling we're gonna make it through this week, guys. We're